Welcome to the Real People, Real Business show, where we're talking with business owners who are in the trenches, everyday people who are working hard and have relevant and inspiring stories that you can relate to. Everyone we speak to is actively building and growing their business and is here to share their experiences, lessons, wisdom, and guidance so you can be inspired to take action towards your own goals. Today, I am so excited to welcome Darlene Hawley, who's a brand and business clarity coach that helps ambitious, heart-centered online entrepreneurs who want to create a successful brand and businesses, but are afraid to share their unique life story, but know they need to stand out if they want to build an authentic and profitable online business. I was tripping over my words there for a second. She helps them build a solid brand foundation so they can share their message with the world, attract dream clients, and have the impact, freedom, and flexibility they desire. That sounds great. So welcome to this show, Darlene, and thanks so much for taking the time to share your story today.
Yeah, thank you so much, Stephanie, for having me on. I'm super excited to be here and share my story with you and just chit chat and catch up a little bit.
Yeah, for sure. I am so happy to see you. I haven't seen you in a little while, and it's always so good on these episodes to be able to reconnect with all of the folks who have been out there and busy. And we get so busy as entrepreneurs, and we never get a chance to really make those connections. So this is awesome. So we're going to spend an hour together, and we're going to talk through your story. So why don't we dive right in? I want to know how you got started, how you got to the place you're in right now, and kind of what was that big trigger for starting your own business?
Yeah, well, again, thank you so much for having me on. I feel like my story really starts kind of back a little bit. I was a teen mom. So I had my oldest son when I had him when I was 18, but I was pregnant my senior year in high school. So I was 17 and pregnant. And after high school, I got an amazing job working in retail, and I quickly was able to move up within the company. And I went from pregnant cashier as a teen to within 2.5 years, I was operations manager of Best Buy. And I loved my job and I loved what I did, but I was, as you can probably relate to, I was a mom, and I also was a single mom on top of that. So it was just me raising my son, and I was working retail management, and I was working like 60 plus hours a week, which is exhausting in itself. I was on my feet all day. I was tired when I came home, and I was raising this amazing little human. And I just missed some of the stuff that happens, right? As a mom, like we miss like seeing their little steps and being there for their meals and like them making crazy messes and all like the fun stuff. And I just found myself working like 60 plus hours a week, too tired. And that was kind of like what started stirring in my soul, that I knew I wanted to do something different. I wanted to be able to be home with my son. I didn't want to work weekends. I didn't want to work nights and miss like tucking him in. Like one of the things that I love to talk about now is like I tuck my kids in bed pretty much every night now, because that's what creating my own business has allowed for me. But that was like, I remember being in my early 20s and being a mom and just struggling with like, how am I supposed to do this? Like, how are you supposed to balance like this world of life, like with working crazy hours, having a child, and trying to like still be a young, adult and like figure out who I want to be and what I want to do with my life. And that was kind of when I started like that stir in me, like, I think I want to do something different. I'm not sure what. And it took me a while even to act on it, right? Because a lot of times as entrepreneurs, like before we're actually entrepreneurs, we have like this gut feeling inside, and we know we want to do more with ourselves. We know that we have bigger plans, like we were made for more. And it takes a little bit sometimes for us to really step out of that. So my mom was my best friend. And like the real big moment for me that like I knew I wanted to change my life and how I was living things was when I lost her. So when I was 22, she was taken in a car accident. And it was a super, obviously, hard time. Like, she's my best friend. She's my mom. She helped a lot with my son. We didn't live with her at that point, but she still was very active grandma, and she helped me a ton with just being in our day-to-day lives. And it was a moment for me that really like transitioned everything for me. And that was at her memorial service after we had done like the service part of it. And we were walking down to the burial site. And I remember just turning around and seeing like was like there was probably over 200 people at my mom's funeral. And I just remember turning around and seeing like all these people that came out and like thinking to myself, like this woman was loved and she was like, she made an impact on so many people's lives. And it was in that moment for myself that like I knew like life is short. We only have one life. We have no idea how long our lives are going to be. My mom was only 49 when she was taken, and she had so much still to give and so much to offer. And she had already made such a big impact on so many people that I knew right there that like it was time for a change. Like I was like, I'm not going to continue working in an environment that I loved working in, but wasn't my life passion. It wasn't allowing me the freedom and the flexibility that I so craved to be home with my son and different things like that. And that was kind of like that pivotal moment for me. And I wish I could say like, I walked away that day and I started a new career and like, I never looked back. It took a couple of years, even after that. I transitioned to working for a different retail company for a couple of years. And then I, from there, transitioned to what really started my entrepreneurial journey. And that was when I became a loan officer. And I was able to start creating my own schedule. I was able to be home on the weekends and in the evenings, which was like amazing for a mom who pretty much was always gone for those times, to be able to finally be home and go to sporting events and see my son on Saturday mornings, play in his soccer games or just be there for those different moments. But yeah, that was kind of like the transition for me. I was like, okay, this is the life I want. I need to like start searching out what that looked like. And I was a loan officer for about 2 years and I enjoyed that too, but I wasn't making big changes in people's lives. I didn't feel like I was I was helping people get homes, which was amazing, but it wasn't like lighting me up. And so I started to like go on a quest to figure out what it was I wanted to do. And I don't even know if monster.com's still around. It used to be big for putting your resume up and seeing what kind of opportunities were out there. And this company reached out to me though when I had put my application on there. And it was for a business coaching franchise. And I was like, I have no idea what a business coach is, but sure, it sounds good. Like I liked what I read. I was like, I'll interview with you guys. I'd love to check it out. And while on the call with this lady named Angie, she told me all about business coaching and like this amazing platform to help entrepreneurs grow their business. And as we were talking, everything she said about coaching, I was having like these aha moments and like light bulbs going off, because that's what I did my whole entire career in retail management. Was I was helping my employees instead of entrepreneurs develop and grow so they can move up within the organization. I was a top gun manager in the company, and I trained a lot of people through the organization to either take my place or to take the same position I have, but just in a different location. And so on that conversation, I was like, I already do this. I'm like, I already am a business coach. I'm like, I didn't know I was doing coaching already at that point, but everything that she explained about coaching was just a part of my natural DNA. Like people come to me when they need advice, when they have questions. Like I've always been kind of one of those people that drew people in and had that connection. And so it was like a natural transition. I was like, before we even hung up the call, I was like, I'm going to become a business coach. I'm like, I didn't even know one existed or what that was until like 5 minutes ago, but that's me. Like, that's my life goal. That's like what the path I want to be on. And so that's kind of how I started my business. And this was back in 2007. So it's been over 12 years now that I've had my own business and coaching amazing business owners. And it wasn't easy, obviously, in the beginning, but I've kind of grown into it and transitioned and pivoted over the years and love what I do now.
What an amazing story. And I think that, the catalyst for your move to becoming an entrepreneur is so emotional, and it's so driven by an event that was really impactful on your life. And I think a lot of people get into entrepreneurship because they're kind of in a place of some privilege, right? And they're comfortable, and now they have the opportunity to sort of think about making this their life, right? Whereas you came into it because of a tragedy and of a recognition that entrepreneurship is going to give you something more than just money, right? And I think that that's a super interesting perspective, because this is something I talk about too, is that entrepreneurs are they're going to save our lives, right? Entrepreneurship allows you to have, and I'm not talking like guys in a Lambo laptop on a beach lifestyle, but it allows you to have the lifestyle pieces that are actually really meaningful to you. Picking your kids up from school, having more interaction with your family. Those are the things that entrepreneurship allows you to do that we're not getting from 9-to-5 jobs.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. And I always laugh when I see like people, entrepreneurs posed in front of the Eiffel Tower, or with their big house in the background, or their Ferrari, or all those different things. And I always wonder, I'm like, is that really your car, or is that really your house? Because it seems like so often, like they want people to feel like they're so much bigger and like they've made it and they're doing all these different things. And that's not really something that like lights me up. Like, I don't have this like big desire to be famous or be a celebrity at some point in my life. Like, I probably will never be Oprah. I'm okay with that. Like, it's not like a big thing. I started my business more because I just wanted to be able to give back and connect with people, but then also be able to live my life the way I want to. Like, I enjoy tucking my kids in. Like, my favorite part of the night is getting in bed and snuggling with them and reading a book before we turn the lights out. That's part of my value system and how I show up. And it's okay if other people really have a Lamborghini and they really are in front of the Eiffel Tower. Like, if that's their laptop lifestyle, like, go for it. But for me, it was more of the why behind it was to be more like, I just enjoy being with my family.
Well, and I think that that's real, right? Most of my clients are not looking to be celebrities. They are not looking to have that kind of laptop lifestyle. They're trying to figure out the like the really roots stuff, right? The real grassroots stuff in their life. Like, I remember one of my big triggers was that I had never been able to pick my kids up from school. And they would come home and they would talk about their friends and they would talk about their teachers and they would talk about all these things that I had no frame of reference for. And I felt like an outsider in their lives. And that was like a huge, huge big deal for me. But that's not sexy, right? But this is, a lot of marketers are missing the point that what real people actually really want is like not vacations on the beach and fancy cars. They're looking to get back what is a building block of our lives, right? When you think about Maslow's hierarchy of needs, we need community before anything else. And we're not getting community by spending all our days 9-to-5 in an office with a sort of a false community that we haven't chosen.
Yeah, no, I completely agree.
So let's get back to you and your business. How do you work with your clients now?
Yeah, so I work with my clients one-to-one. I love the personal touch of just that one-to-one relationship. So most of my clients work with me in a 6-month coaching program where we deep dive into what their niche is, what their ideal client looks like, how they can show up as their authentic self. I teach a lot of, I feel like the personal brand stems from us, obviously. Like, we're creating personal brands as business owners, especially in this online business space. It's important that we show up and we share our story, because people connect more with us and are able to relate when they hear, they're like, oh, I used to work 60 plus hours a week and I was missing tucking my kids in bed. Like, part of that story that was my why for starting my business is a lot of the why is for the clients that I attract too, because they're wanting more of that. So I teach a lot of how to share your story in a way that really connects you with your audience, and using that in your marketing strategy, using that when you go on Facebook Live, using it if you're on your About Me page on your website, right? Like, so many people go to our About Me page and they want to know about who you are and like what your why is and why you started your business and what it is that you do. And they feel connected through that storytelling. So a lot of it's just connecting with our audience in a way that attracts to the heart. It's not like this like sleazy marketing strategy. We so often are trying to like stand out and do things in a different way and to attract people to us. And we forget that people are attracted to us just because of our personalities and who we are. It's not like this big mind-blowing, like life-changing thing that's different about us. Like it's just showing up as who you are and being comfortable putting yourself out that way, and not, I feel like so many people like second guess, like, oh, I can't, like if people knew that I was a teen mom, what would they think about me? Like I remember starting my business and I didn't share that story in the beginning. Like I've never like been ashamed of it or like held back by it, but I didn't know that I would connect to so many people because of sharing some of those details. And you don't have to tell, like the thing that I talk a lot with my clients is you don't have to tell like every single detail of your life to have a personal brand. Like most of our audiences only know like this like snippet of who we are, and we don't have to show like only the good stuff, but we have to show ourselves authentically and share stories that connect us. And even if that's like a one-line sentence about something going on in our life, in our messaging and our marketing, that's what draws people in. It's not the all the features that we have, right? Like it's not that I have this amazing coaching package. The type of coaching I do, there's other coaches out there that do it. There's probably a lot of coaches out there that do it. I try not to pay too much attention to who all is out there in the world, but we all have competition no matter which industry that we're in. But it's standing out differently by sharing our story and connecting that way.
So I know a lot of people get a lot of anxiety about this because they think that they need to find a differentiator and that no one else has done before. And they belabor that, and they actually wait and hold themselves back until they figured out like what is that differentiating statement. Whereas what really sets you apart, and this is why it's such good news for all of us, is that we are just these unique little beings that by nature of the fact of just being yourself, you have some different perspective, you have some quirks, you have all these little things. And that combination of all of those things, your experiences and your education and your way of being and the way you speak, and that's your brand, right? It is not defined by something you decide, right? Or something that you manufacture. Now, extracting that so you have some clarity in your messaging and that sort of thing is really important. But are you finding that your clients come to you and they have this anxiety about my brand and standing out and being differentiated?
Yeah, most of them come and they are worried about like their logo or the colors that they're going to have show up, right? Because when we think of branding, that's usually the first thing that I think we were trained by society of the online world is like, oh, well, you have to have a logo and you have to have your brand colors. And I don't even like, those are important. Yes. Like, I'm not saying they're not important, but your unique story and how you show up yourself is more important. And the stories that you tell and the relationships that you create through that are what really help you stand out. And it's more focusing on like the emotional branding piece to it too. Like people connect through stories. They don't connect really through a color on a website or your logo. Like that might attract them in and they might recognize it, right? Like Coca-Cola, we see the red soda can and like we can connect that really easily now. And we know that connection through like their marketing strategy. But it's the emotions that we connect, especially as personal brands. We have to show up as who we are in a way that just feels authentic and it's real. And it's not, you're not trying to be somebody else. I think most of the people that I talk to, especially in the beginning, they see other people doing things. So they try to emulate what they're seeing them do. And it doesn't show off as authentic for them. And they don't get the same traction or the results from it because they're too stuck on trying to do it like somebody else. And it's not them. So it's not really connecting in the way that they want it to.
So how do you help your clients like start showing up authentically? What do they need to do?
Yeah. So I love to put my clients through, like, I call it like a massive brainstorming session first thing is, and that's really just getting them to sit down and write down every single thing that's ever happened in their life, everything that's been an impact or made an impact for them. Or like you said, it could be like educational stuff. Like where did they go to school? How were they raised? What did they do? So I have a brain dump on a piece of paper. I usually have them sit down with paper and pen because I feel like you just get so much more traction than if you try to like type it out on your computer. So I have them brainstorm through all the story possibilities, all the ways that they stand out, that they feel like they might be different from other people in their competition, whether it's the same industry or other industries, but just what are they passionate about? What are their skills? What have they done in their lives? And then after they do that massive brain dump, I have them ask themselves 4 questions. And that's what happened? And like what happened as part of that experience or that story? How were you impacted by it? Like what was like that big impact for you? What changed for you? So because of that situation, like what changed? What did something change in your heart? Did you look at things in a different way? Were you just changed as a person? And then the 4th question is, what lesson have you learned? Like what's your big takeaway from that experience? And by going through that, you're able to start identifying which pieces of your story you can really use to start standing out online and to share your message. So like when I did the exercise for myself, when I was creating this framework that I didn't even know I was creating, like for me, it was like single mom working 60 hours a week, losing my mom and having that moment of turning around and seeing how many people she had an impact on and how that changed like my heart in that moment. And then it was, so you just look at those different experiences and start tying those together. And then I always have my clients go back through too, and then to actually go out and do some market research, like talk to the people that are their people, like their clients, their ideal clients, sit down with them and ask them questions, figure out what their strengths are, what their struggles are, what their pains are, where they're struggling to get business or clients from, and get really clear, like what is it they desire? Do they have desires that are bigger, like my desire to have more flexibility in my schedule? That was something that was big for me. And when I started talking to my clients, that was something that I realized quickly was their desire too. So it was something that we had in common. And then taking that information and kind of pulling that all together to create like your brand story so you can start building those relationships using that framework. So a lot of it's just, brainstorming, asking yourself a lot of questions, finding the connecting pieces to share with your audience, and actually talking to your audience, and then using that information and that you gathered during that time to start using that in your marketing, using that as you're building relationships, especially online, because it's so much different too. Building relationships online where we read a lot more. We don't have, if you walk into a networking event, like you can have actual conversations where this might come out easily. But when you're online, you have to word it in a way that people can understand and that you want them to kind of lean in, right? Versus like back up a little bit. And some people are going to back up. Like you're going to also, the cool thing about sharing your story is the people that it's meant for are going to lean in and connect with you. And the people that it's not meant for and that aren't your ideal client, your people, your tribe, however you like to word it, like you kind of repel them too, which is a good thing, I think, especially in the online world. Like we can't work with everybody. Like we're not meant to work with every single person out there. I can't even handle more than say 20 clients at a time, right? Like that would be a lot for one person to handle. So I don't need to talk to everybody in the world. I just need to talk to like my people.
So I love that you are sending your clients out to talk to their clients, because really our brand is what other people say about us, right? What our clients say about us. And so are you finding that your clients are going out talking to their clients, and are they coming back with like new information or realizations or some surprises, or is it mostly that they're kind of confirming what they knew already?
I think that's a little bit of both. A lot of us start our businesses and we are our ideal client, if I can say that. Like we've been there before. So we have a little bit of that to lean on because we know kind of what we walked through. But then we also, when you're going out and speaking to your ideal client, like you're able to take their language that they're using. And I always have my clients, so when you're doing these like market research calls, like I always tell them, if you're doing it on record, like if you're able to do it like on Zoom, like record it so you can go back and listen to it afterwards again and take notes. because you get so much goodness from listening to like the way that they answer the question and the language that they use. That's kind of like my secret tip is you take that language then and use that language in your marketing, because those are your ideal client's exact words. It's so much more powerful than you trying to write messaging that might attract your ideal client because you think it sounds good in your head versus like having the actual language from your client. So yeah, I always have them try to paraphrase as much of their messaging or their interviews as possible, because that's like liquid gold. It's their ability to be able to write in a way that makes sense and draws people in for them.
Right. And in a sense, you kind of have to go out and make a mess first before you can really hone in on and finalize your brand. And I think a lot of people they don't start because they're not sure about it yet, but really getting sure about it is a matter of going out and actually doing the work, right? And having the clients to speak to and to get the feedback from. So are you working with people who are just starting out? Or are you working with people who've been in business for a little while?
It's usually a blend. A lot of my clients are not, they don't come to me like day one of their business. They've started their business and they feel like they have a foundation built, but they don't like have all the pieces like strongly built. So I work with them on creating kind of that strong foundation for their business. So whether they have one client or if they have 15 clients, the foundation isn't going to fall, right? It's kind of like building a house. You have to have like that strong foundation piece built to move forward with your clients and to attract the right people. So a lot of it is getting super clear on who it is they want to work with. They're doing the market research with their ideal clients and asking the questions. They're getting in front of their ideal client too, because I think so many times we ask a little bit of questions, but we don't like deep dive into who our ideal client is. And the more that you know your ideal client, the easier it is to really understand them and to create content that's valuable, that's going to build that relationship that you want to, because we're not selling all the time, right? Like most of us we have offers out there, but a lot of it is just adding value to our communities and showing up and trying to create content that's going to inspire people or pique their interest a little bit, or maybe solve a little bit of their problem, maybe not the whole entire problem, because we want them to want us at some point, right? But we're sharing valuable content that's allowing them to really engage and build those relationships with each other, because your community is the most important. The more that you give to your community, the more value packed your content is, the easier it's going to be for you when you do have an offer to sell, for them to be able to correlate like, oh, I've worked with Darlene on her free content, with this, and this. And now when I'm ready to take my business to the next level, I know who I want to go to, versus seeing so many people doing so many different things and not knowing kind of what that differentiator is for you.
Yeah. And I think like being out and present in your communities is a double whammy, right? We get to be present. We get to show a little bit of our work. We get to develop the relationships, but we also get to learn a lot, right? Like I've found that being out and being of service in communities is like the number one tool for me in terms of marketing, because I get to hear from all of these people and triangulate what I'm assuming already and get to know them as clients really, really well, so that when I go to have an offer, I can target it appropriately. But I also get the chance to give them a sense of what it's like to work with me, right? So these, it's actually really easy, right? It's like showing up and just being yourself and being really helpful is a great marketing strategy, and it allows you to tell that story that you've created, right?
Yeah.
So speaking of brands, what is it about you? What is it about you and your story and your brand that makes you stick out amongst other coaches?
Yeah. So like I've already shared some of my story, obviously, with you guys. So like some of those identifying pieces have been, people relate to the fact that I'm a mom. They relate to the fact that they work, tons of hours at work for a company who they might feel like they're irreplaceable or replaceable too. They're not irreplaceable, because especially in most organizations, we think they make us feel like they could not live without us if we, took that vacation day or if we took that time off. But in all reality, that's not always the case. So it's, I think the biggest thing for me, I'm just kind of rambling. The biggest thing for me that stands out is that I'm super relatable. I work with a lot of moms who want to start businesses and want to connect at a deeper level. They want to create revenue for their family so that they can provide a lifestyle for themselves and their children, so that they can, go on a couple of vacations every year. So it's more of just showing up authentically as myself and sharing those stories with myself, and being open to relate and connect in a way that I feel like some entrepreneurs aren't. Like, so many people, I feel like when they're marketing, like they're very guarded. Like they share just enough to, like, because they're really good marketers, they can share just enough to like pull you in. But at the end of the day, like, they don't have that ability to really engage and connect and help people take their business to the next level. And that's something that I've been able to, I think, do really well with my clients, is I'm able to pull them in because of who I am and the stories that I share, and just kind of like, I'm me. Like, I'm not like super fancy. I'm not trying to be somebody that I'm not. And that's what resonates.
The relatability, the approachability, the accessibility, that kind of thing, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. What do you say to the people who have the objection that they're very private people and they don't feel comfortable sharing so much about themselves?
Oh, I so love that question, because everybody, like, I feel like everybody always says that. They're like, I don't want to share my story because, I have people on my Facebook page that know me, or what if my mom hears, or what if my husband hears what I say? And they're so worried about, not like who's going to be listening, that they just hold themselves back. So I always tell my clients, like, or the top things I usually hear are that their story is not that special. And like, let's break that myth right now. Like, every single one of us has different unique life experiences that we can share with the world. So share that information, share that story, share that thing that's happened to you, because you don't have to share like the whole entire thing. You just have to share a little bit to engage with them. I feel like a lot of people say, like, nobody cares about my story. Like, why would my story matter to somebody else? Like, how would that help them? And I personally feel like sharing, or when I hear other people's stories, like, it's almost healing to me to know that I'm not alone in this crazy life that we have. Like, it's nice to know, like, other people have, bad days with their kids, or that the crazy things that our kids say. Like, I always joke, like, I pull so many of my story ideas and the things that I share about based off of like what my kids say, because right, kids say the darndest things, like, and it like inspires like so many different things. And then a lot of people say they just don't like to talk about themselves. And I think they worry too much because they think they have to share every single thing that happens to them. And I always tell them, like, no, like, you guys only know like probably a quarter of my life in all reality. Like, there's so many facets to each of us that you don't have to share like everything, and you don't have to share it if you're not comfortable. Brene Brown has a quote, to share from the scar, not the wound. And that like really resonated when I read that. I was like, it just made me pause and realize, like, you don't have to share if you're going through something. You don't have to share if you're in some like the situation still. Like, share down the road. Save the story for a day when you're not going to get like upset or emotional about it. Like, it took me a long time to share the story about my mom. It's still like, it doesn't choke me up like it did in the beginning, but I have a feeling inside my body every time I share that story. Like, and I share it maybe a little bit different every single time. Sometimes I might share more information. Sometimes I might, just hit the surface level, whatever I'm feeling in that moment, like whatever feels good to my gut. But just knowing that you can just share when you're ready. You don't have to share everything. Share which pieces you think are going to be relatable. I encourage my clients to have what I call a story bank. So if they, and I have mine on Trello, I just have a board, it's literally called Story Bank. And anytime I have a story idea or something that happens, I just write it down in there. And if I'm not ready to use that story, especially online, then I don't use it. But I write it down so that if one day, maybe, 2 weeks from now, or 2 months, or 2 years, maybe, that story might have a different meaning to me. I might have come all the way through it, and I might be able to share it in a way that will help other people heal or help them go through the struggle in a different way because they're able to hear the inspiration or how I've come through it. So just having a way to kind of keep all of your stories to the side has been impactful for me because you don't know when you're going to use them, and you don't have to share everything, every single detail. Like feel into it. Like I always say, like, listen to your gut, not your head, because my head will tell me I should do this, I should do that, I should do all these different things. But in all reality, like my gut tells me, like, yeah, this is the right time. Like this is okay to share, or nope, not today, like not happening.
But there's also no requirement for you to share anything in particular. And it's not like you need to create a storyline of all of the trials and tribulations that you have been through, but it could be observations, anything that gives your client sort of a window into your character, right? That is, I think, what people are reaching for these days, is to know you as a person. And so does that mean you have to air all your dirty laundry? Absolutely not. Does it mean you have to do anything that you're uncomfortable with? Absolutely not. But people want to know you. So whatever kind of gives you that personality, and that's something that they can put a pin on and say, oh, that's for me. Like that's my people. It could be something goofy. Like I played roller derby, and there's this whole community of people out there who know what roller derby means and the culture. And in fact, you and I coach with somebody who played roller derby too. So it's like one of these little connecting things that everybody has some connection to something to do with you. And so I think getting away from this assumption and this resistance, saying I'm a private person, I don't, like, you can still be a private person and have your personality showing.
Yeah. And I always encourage my clients to have like 5 different story buckets even to pull from, because we don't want to just talk about our business all day long, right? Like that gets super boring super quick if all we did was show up and only talked about our business. But like you talk about roller derby, like that's like another piece of your brand that you can use, because I've witnessed you connect to people through like that experience itself. And that's another way that like people will lean in if they're like, oh, roller derby, and that's like super awesome. That's cool. Like, I can't believe you've done that. Like I've done it, or I've never done it, and this is why I haven't done it, but I love that you did it. You're relating and connecting in a way, and you're not even talking about business. So you're building relationships. Like, so you want to talk about other things. Like if you love to travel and that's something that you enjoy doing, then bring that into your brand, talk about it, tell people about like the latest trip that you're planning, that you're going on, or what your bucket list is for 2020 or whatever that looks like. But pull those pieces into your brand, because that's the relatable piece, right? Like people aren't just listening because they want to buy from you solely, like because you have this amazing offer, which we do all have amazing offers, but that's not why they're listening. They're listening because you're sharing stories and you're connecting in relatable ways. And you're multifaceted, like you have different dimensions to you. You're not like just a plain, simple, boring person. Like you have these different things. Like I talk about my kids in my marketing. If you go to my Instagram page, like I pull them into my brand a little bit. They're not honestly a big part of my brand, but they're a piece that I can connect to. I can tell mom life stories, and my audience resonates and relates to that. So it's like a good connecting piece. So try to find things about yourself that you can kind of have as like your story bank, or not your story bank, but like your story buckets. So you have your business. Like for me, I have my business. I have that I'm a mom. I have that I'm a procrastinator. Like I talk about the fact that I'm a procrastinator. Like I will wait sometimes to do something to the very last minute. And a lot of my clients find themselves in the same situation. So we are able to like talk about those situations. I can share stories about how I've procrastinated and how I've been able to accomplish what I needed to. And also the times where like it didn't work because I let that hold me back, or I waited so long that I didn't do it as timely as I needed to. So find those different things about yourself. And if you love to travel, pull that in. If you love to, I don't know if you have a hobby, if you're you have a hobby for photography or different things like that, like talk about those things, because it's going to make people feel more connected, because there's more to you than just your personal brand itself. It kind of takes you to that next level.
Right. So let me shift a little bit. I want to talk about your business and you building your business. What has growth meant to you? Like, what have you kind of grown around?
Such a good question. I feel like I'm growing like pretty much every single day. I'm what I call a lifetime learner. I always have my nose in a book, or I'm listening to a podcast, or I'm taking a new training. I just love to take in new information. So I think for me, growth has been allowing myself to fail and fall forward and try things that maybe scare the crap out of me. And then asking myself through that process, like, what was my biggest lesson from this? What did I learn? And how can I take that, either failure or success, depending on how it is? Because, right, like as entrepreneurs, like we do scary things every day. Like I actually challenged myself in 2018, my phrase for myself was, I do scary things. Like that was like what I was telling myself. Like, it's okay to be scared. Excuse me. So it's okay to be scared. It's okay to do things that scare the pants off of you, because those are the lessons that we learn, and that's how we take ourselves to the next level. So how are we, like, growth is like just getting ourselves ready for that next up level, because I think no matter where we are in our businesses, whether I was starting out or where I'm at today, like I still have another goal. I still have a new plan or a vision that I want to reach towards. And it's putting myself in that position so that I can up level to be that next level entrepreneur that I'm going to be.
So what's worked for you in terms of growth and in terms of that up leveling? Like, what has helped you continually get to the next level?
Yeah, I think a lot of it has been putting myself out there and not being afraid to be visible. So when I started my business, I built it. I live in Southern California now, and I used to live in Las Vegas. And when I started my business, my whole entire business was built on the ground, connecting, in-person networking. And then when we moved to Southern California, my youngest, he's 5 now, but he was 6 months old at the time. And I wasn't ready to like find new people to watch him. We had no family where we moved to. So I had to start building my business online. And I had to quickly find ways to connect, because, right, I wasn't comfortable doing videos or doing things in the beginning. So I had to find different ways to show up. So for me, that was doing Zoom masterclasses have been something that I enjoy doing now, because it's in a confined environment where I can see who's in the group. I can ask engaging questions and build relationships that way. So that's been one way that I've been able to kind of be visible. I also love to network in person. And now that my youngest is 5, I've started a local meetup group where I do every 2 months, we get together for a business book club, which is usually that I pick based off of, on ways that we can up level and personal develop, grow ourselves as well as our business. And I've been able to bring an amazing community of women around me to get to know and network locally. Has been a big piece to it. As well as we do like what I call business coaching circles, where I teach them how to ask thought-provoking questions to the other entrepreneurs that are in the group, instead of just, I feel like so often, like you go have coffee with a friend, right? And you pick their brain and you just like get all their advice from them. They tell you how everything's working for them. And as a coach, I kind of like to live by the fact that, like, I like to ask questions. Like, so I have been teaching people in my community that are part of my meetup group how to ask questions and how to find the answers for yourself that feel really good, versus just going to other people and finding out what works for them. Because I think the secret to creating an online business is not just doing what everybody else is doing, but doing what feels good to you and what works really well for you, instead of trying to do the 5 million, all the things, as like the hashtag, all the things, right? Like you see online, everybody's doing all these different things, and that you have to do what feels really good for you. So asking yourself those questions to understand what that is has been like a fun experiment to have with my local community.
So that's awesome. You've been really you have an online business, but you've been building your visibility through offline techniques and through teaching. And does that translate well into the online customers?
Yeah, I think so. Most of my clients are all over, like they live in different cities and states from me. So it's not like I don't have the ability to go meet them for coffee. So thank God for technology, right? Like we have the capability to have, Zoom calls and Skype and all these different tools have been able to allow us to build businesses where we don't have to be face to face with people. So that's made a huge impact, because I remember when I moved from Las Vegas and I was going to be, a 4-hour drive away from the city where all my clients were and all of my contacts, I was nervous for a little bit. I was like, how am I going to continue to grow this business and start over in a new city? And when I realized that like the online world was available for me to build those connections and stay in touch with people and to still have those conversations and have those clients, it's just given me, it's like another layer to the business. So you can still grow your business locally, but you can also help so many people all over the world now because of the way that our world has turned and all of this amazing technology that somebody created for us. So
right?
yeah,
life has changed a lot, right?
It has. I mean, when I started in 2007, like I wasn't able to comprehend that we could have the online business that we have today. It just wasn't created yet. Like it was starting to be, like there was little pieces out there, but it wasn't until like, I feel like 10 years ago when it like really shifted as like Facebook came available and we didn't have MySpace anymore. Like it was like all those different changes though that have brought us to a place now where you can work with people no matter where they live at, but you can also still work in your own backyard, which I love because I'm like an ambivert. I'm not really like, I love to be home, but I also love to like be around people and connect. So it's important for me to get out from behind my computer sometimes and build those relationships locally in person, just as much as it is for me to grow it in the online community as well.
Totally agree. I have a diploma certificate in internet marketing from 1998. And so I've been watching this whole community, this whole environment shift for, 20 years. And here we are now in this place of opportunity. And I think people who are new to business and who have only ever just built an online business don't recognize what a treat it is to have access to data and technology and connectivity in the ways that we do now, right?
Yeah. Most millennials don't even know what it's like to not have that stuff, right? So for them, it's like crazy that we even talk about like actually like not having built our businesses online, because so many of them are able to that's just what they grew up with. Where I'm like in that middle piece, like we had computers and we had those brick cell phones when I was a teenager, but it was like the on skirt of it was when it really started to change was, after I was already an adult. So
yeah, my very first job coming out of university was as a researcher for a new software startup. And that was before we had robust internet technologies. So we were building an internet-based, basically a software as a service in like an enterprise environment, but we didn't have the digital marketing tools that we have now. We didn't have connectivity was still like something you have in your basement to play games on, and it's sort of a novelty, right? So it's really interesting. I mean, and in a way, the fundamentals of business haven't shifted that much. It's just we have better tools and better access now to be able to do those things, right? Okay, I'm going to ask you, what has been like the most pivotal moment in your business?
Most pivotal moment, I will say, yeah. So when I first became a coach back in 2007, I had signed up as a coach and was trained through a franchise. And I was with them for about 2 years, 2.5 years, I guess. And I was getting clients and it was inconsistent and I wasn't able to sustain being a part of a franchise and the fees and the royalty that came with that. And I had chose to walk away from that franchise. And it was a really rough time for me because I loved what I was doing, and I was super frustrated with myself for not having the success that I was promised as part of the franchise, right? Like it was just a struggle for me to get to the goals that I was promised and like kind of what I thought I could achieve. And I had a lot of mindset gunk that just kind of stuck with me through that process. I was like, okay, I failed at this business. What was I doing? I loved when I was working with clients, but I was struggling with getting clients. And I think for me, like my big pivotal movement was about, I think it was like 3 to 4 months after I'd walked away from the franchise. I was like trying to reassess what I wanted to do with my life. Like, okay, if I didn't succeed at that piece of my business, like how was I going to move forward? And about 4 months into it, I just sat down and I got really clear on like the foundational pieces for my business, which is what I teach today, which is why I'm able to teach it. It was when I sat back though, and I got really clear, like what was my niche going to be? Who was it that I was going to work with? How was I going to work with them? I got super clear on who my ideal client was. I got clear on how to share myself to people to connect and relate to them. And I really worked on my messaging and how my marketing strategies for how I was going to grow a business. And during that time, like I set a foundation for myself that worked. And all of a sudden it was like clockwork, and like everything started shifting, like my mindset shifted that I could do it. And I wasn't a failure because I didn't succeed with the franchise. Like I didn't have to like prove myself to anybody anymore. And it was just that moment when I did the work, the hard work of like getting really clear with who it was I wanted to work with, I think was the moment that really clicked for me. And I feel like I see that happen to so many people today, even like they have this vision and this idea and this plan for themselves, but they're not sure how to do the work to really get super clear and deep into it. And I think that's kind of like my secret sauce now is like, I failed at my first business as a business coach. Like I had all the tools and the support and everything I needed, and I didn't succeed with that franchise. And it was devastating. I lost a lot of money. Like my pride was hurt. But coming through that, like totally shifted who I am and how I show up today. And it's what I've been able to use as like the foundation for how I help my clients now. So I don't feel like maybe if I hadn't walked away from that franchise, I would have still learned these lessons at some point. But because I did, like that was like a huge pivotal moment for me to show up for my clients now, as well as to show up for myself and for my family.
Yeah, I call them the starter business. Yeah. Kind of like a starter marriage.
Yeah.
And I went through it. I think everybody does go through it at some point in time. And if you're lucky, you get exposed to all of that stuff beforehand. But I think that there's still a lot of learning that comes out of things not working out exactly as you had hoped. And I kind of look at that as being one step closer to where you really want to be, right?
Yes, so true. Yeah. If you like have to learn from those lessons, like we can learn so much during what feels like such a dark and deep and depressing time sometimes, but that's like where the new growth is at and the new light. And it's such a beautiful thing. Like when you're able to like come through whatever that moment is and see like a new direction and a new path and a new way of being. It's just a beautiful thing.
Yeah, I love it. Okay. I have a question that I ask everybody. This show is all about being real and being relatable. And so what do you think is the biggest gap between what's real and what we see out there in the online business world?
The biggest gap. I love that because I'm always saying like, is it real or like the real, like the video reel of like the movie stars, like because the edited version, or is it like the real life of what we have going on? I think the big difference is I feel like a lot of our episode is kind of already highlighted on some of this too. Like it's just showing up authentically, being okay with who you are and showcasing it. Like find those pieces of yourself that have impacted you and go out there and tell people about them. Like connect through those stories so that you can have that engagement and build that community and start to collaborate with other people in the online market space, because so many people are like, we're seeing like the highlight reel of their life. Like if you go to Instagram, everything looks all perfect, right? Like we take 300 pictures to get that one picture so we can post that one blog post or that one little teeny snippet comment. But we're so worried about everything being perfect. Like it doesn't have to be perfect. Like post the silly pictures, post the ones that aren't perfect, because that's the ones that people are going to relate to. They're going to connect to, they're going to be inspired by. And that's what's going to, I think, turn like this online space on its head is if people just start showing up authentically as who they are and stop trying to be somebody who they're not, and stop trying to be the girl next door or the boy next door or that entrepreneur who you think is successful, because a lot of times they're not even as successful as they look like online. And when you really get to know them, you're like, you're like, that's interesting. You're like, they're spending a lot of money.
That experience. Yeah, I have had that experience for sure. And it's super eye-opening. Okay. So Darlene, what's next for you?
Yeah. What's next for me? Nothing's really changing for me other than that I'm still working with amazing clients and helping them grow and develop their businesses. For myself, it's just, I'm working really hard at building community. So I'm growing my Facebook group. I'm trying to show up in a way that is authentic and real and connecting and sharing valuable content that makes sense for my ideal client. And just helping amazing entrepreneurs grow their business and have the life that they truly want. Letting them be home to tuck their kids in bed at night, having that flexibility to do the things they want. And if they want to travel, awesome. If they want to stay home and read a book on the couch because they provided for their family for the day, like that's kind of the life that I'm trying to provide, as just a way of helping my community show up the way that they want to, and in a way that feels really good to them.
Awesome. And you're running a virtual summit in January.
I am. Yeah. I'm going to have a virtual summit all about showing up as your authentic, true self. And it's featuring amazing ladies from all over the world, actually. They're sharing some of their top tips for being visible, showing up online, being authentic and real, and just doing their thing and doing it the way that they want to, and not trying to do it like everybody else is encouraging them to do.
Awesome. I love it. So we'll put links to that or to anything that you've got to share with us in the show notes. But I would love to direct people to your group as well, so that they can continue to get all this awesomeness from you. But what kind of support do you need in order to get there?
Support that I need? I don't know. I feel like I just love being around amazing people that are doing similar things to me, like showing up authentically and growing their communities. So I just love to collaborate and build relationships. And I'm always happy to connect and have conversations to find ways to do that. So yeah, if anybody is listening and wants to connect and see how we can help support each other, I would love to connect.
Awesome. We'll put all of your contact information in the show notes, and then hopefully everybody's going to start reaching out.
Awesome.
So good. Okay. We are at time, but I want to thank you so much for taking the time to chat with me today. This has been really inspiring and informative. Can you tell the listeners the best way to find you?
Yeah, probably the best place to hang out would be in my free Facebook community, which is Attract and Stand Out Brand Building with Darlene Hawley. You can find me there. And then you can also find me on Instagram if you want to see cute pictures of my kids and kind of follow along with what's going on with my business as well.
Awesome. And you mentioned that you have an offer that you would like to extend to all of our listeners.
I do. I have a Uncover Your Niche workbook and video series that helps you get really super clear on who your ideal client is and make sure that you're niched down enough to where you're able to grow your business and really connect with your audience so they know exactly what you're doing through your passion.
That sounds super valuable. We'll put a link in, but go find Darlene and download that freebie, because that is an amazing, amazing offer that's going to get you through this stuck place where you're really trying to figure out how you're going to show up to your audience. Awesome. Thank you so much. So that's a wrap for this episode. Such an amazing conversation, and make sure you go and check out Darlene and her incredible offer. And thank you for tuning in today to hear this story. The episodes you're listening to are all featuring members of my free private Facebook group called the Real Deal Business Coaching Group, where we have daily prompts to keep you focused on building your business and sharing your everyday challenges and wins, bi-weekly virtual coffee chats, open coaching, and member support from in this incredible community. And we have just started doing monthly pop-up coaching sessions. So you get a chance to be coached on a hot seat in a live free session. So come join us. If you would like to join our community, or if you'd like to be featured on this show, I'd love for you to come and hang out with us in the group. Links in the show notes, or search up Real Deal Business Coaching in Facebook to find us. And finally, I would love for you to join us for our next episode, where we're going to be speaking to Sally Ann Gray, who is a marketing strategist for small businesses who want to do big things. She's going to talk to us about finding a specific opportunity and a gap in services for small businesses, how she's capitalized on that to build her own successful small business. So thank you again for being here. And if you've enjoyed today's content, I would love for you to give us a review on whatever platform you're listening on. This helps us share these stories with an even bigger audience. And so until next time, keep building, keep dreaming, and keep being real.